Hey guys, it's Patch with Mobius Media Solutions, and we are here with John Taglieri, and we're going to be talking about the business of art. Stick around. Okay, so John, tell me a little bit of your backstory. Give me the we know you're in music, but give me the how did you start? How did you get started down this path that you're on?
That started at 5 years old when my parents decided they rather than hire a babysitter, they'd send me to guitar lessons.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, at 5, my mom and dad sent me to guitar lessons, and that's what started this entire journey.
And how did you, did you play all through school? Did you play in school bands? Did you start a 7-year-old rock band? I mean, what did you do?
Played guitar for a few years, decided I didn't like it because it's what my parents wanted. And I quit guitar and started playing bass and then drums and then back to guitar. And then in school bands, I started playing trumpet and sax and all different brass and woodwind instruments. And then did that all through high school. I was one of the marching band geeks.
Good for you.
And of course, through the whole time in high school, did the rock band thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a metalhead because I had the longer hair and I was in a rock band. And of course, I was a band geek, so I had 2 crowds I could kind of hang out with. But then I was also a little bit of a jock, so I sort of had 3 crowds I could hang out with, but I was never quite any part of them because they would, oh, you're a metalhead, oh, you're a jock, like one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played my entire life, started on the road touring at about 20. And
so how many instruments do you play total?
Right now, probably about 9 or 10 at the moment. Used to be more, but a lot of the brass, woodwind, and that kind of stuff have dropped off of the radar for me.
Yeah. So
yeah,
give me some more stats, because I know you're very accomplished. You got a lot of things going on, and we'll get into the backstory in a minute. But just kind of give me a rundown of some of the stats, because you got some pretty impressive things under your belt.
I've been around the world playing music.
Yeah.
I've got 14 releases out. I've had 2 hit Billboard. I've had a #1 on Amazon and a couple of top 10s on iTunes. I've sold about 30,000 records, and I've opened for a lot of nationals and biggie names. I've played for 8 people. I've played for 80,000.
Yeah.
So
good for you, man. All right.
Yeah.
So
every day I gotta wake up and forget how to pay the mortgage. So I don't know, for whatever it's all worth.
Yeah. So this is going to get really interesting really fast, and I'm going to try not to hold you back, but when did you truly know that you wanted to be like a full-time musician? This is how you wanted to make money?
1997.
Okay. And what was the realization point?
I got angry. I was a guy who always wrote songs but never knew what to do when I was younger. And then I started getting into I'm from New Jersey, and I got into some pretty successful cover bands. And woke up one day in 1997 and realized I hadn't written a song in like 4 years because I had such a great paid social life on the weekends, making money, being in this cover band that was selling out all the local clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of festered for a bit. And then in 1998, I started writing what would be my first record, which came out in 99.
Yep.
And I never looked back.
Good for you. All right. So tell me how you kind of started. So most people start out playing local places, making short dollars, basically taking on everything just to try to get more, more shows, so to speak. So kind of tell me about the early days. What were you doing? Were you playing, $50, $100 a night? Were you just doing open mics? Just kind of give me the story of how you actually got into where you were making money.
It was interesting because at that time, I still had a day job. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to tour, and I was doing a lot of red-eye flights. I would get out of work at 5 o'clock on Friday, get on a plane at 7:30, and be in Atlanta and play the next night, play Sunday night, take a red-eye home Sunday, and be in work on Monday.
Right.
And I was doing that all around the East Coast and out to Chicago and all that kind of thing. Then I linked up with, at the time, Borders Books. Mm-hmm. And I did an entire 5 or 6 day tour of Borders. Mm-hmm. So I was playing every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Borders, which at the time were paying. back in the early 2000s, Borders was actually paying for the original shows.
Right.
So I was going to these Borders and doing these 90-minute performances and getting paid to do it and selling CDs. I managed to get myself on the Scott and Todd show in New York City for my first release, which was, the morning show, like the 2 million drive time morning show. And so that immediately blew all the CDs out of stores, and people were like, who is this guy? Like, because I was all doing, consignment kind of stuff, and all of a sudden stores were just requesting stuff.
Right.
And so between the Borders thing and that, and then picking up a lot of college radio at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I was getting a lot of press and a lot of PR, and I attracted the attention of a label from London, who was a subsidiary of Universal.
Nice.
And because I was in all the magazines their acts were in, but I wasn't paying to be there. And they were like, who is this guy who's taking up space that we should have?
Right.
And then I got on a gig out in Las Vegas, and they came to Las Vegas to see me play, and then took me out afterwards and signed me.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was the first record.
So up until this point, you didn't really have, like, this isn't a second or third career. You had no business experience when you first started getting into this.
None. Flying by the seat of my pants every minute of the day.
Right. I know the feeling. So when you first started, were you under management, or did you just make this leap of faith with the first person that showed you interest? Or, I mean, how were you making these decisions?
It's amazing that you just used that term, because that's the name of my first album, Leap of Faith.
Nice.
It was literally, I'm going off the diving board. I hope the pool's full. And I had nothing. I had no management. I had no PR. I had nothing. The gig I got in Vegas that wound up getting me signed, the guy who ran it was a festival, like a weekend-long festival. He ultimately became my manager and my PR guy for the last 15 years now.
So I just heard something from Ed Sheeran where he said, the people that make it in music have no plan B.
Yeah.
Like, if it's just plan A, if this is what you got everything in, and there's no other option,
you have to succeed.
You'll make it work, right? So do you find that true? Is that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When you have a safety net, you can get complacent, because I can land over there if it's
right.
If nothing happens. When there's no safety net, it's do or die.
So did you how old were you when you got the gig in Vegas?
It was in my mid-30s.
Yeah. Okay. So you packed up every
bloomer to this business too, which made it even harder, because people are like, "Oh, you're already too old."
Right. So you just packed up everything, went there, or was it?
Well, that was simply a weekend-long fest, and the label came out to see me play. And once we signed, then they put me out. I was doing shows in Chicago and Atlanta and New York and Boston, and they were sending me all over to do shows.
Right. So
at the time, I was still working.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to get out of this job.
So tell me about that. I'm really interested in this. So I know what it is to be on the road and live out of a suitcase. I know what it is to have a bag by the door ready to go at a moment's notice. I know what all that's about. But the life of a musician, a lot of people just don't really understand how difficult that lifestyle can be. Not just because business meetings are during the day, most of your shows are at night, the physical stress it takes on a body. But tell me, what is it like for a musician that's full time doing it nonstop? Tell me what is the day in the life, let's say Monday through Friday.
It would change a little bit day by day, and it would depend on where you were in the album release cycle, to be honest. Because right after an album release, life was very simple. You woke up, you got in a van, you drove to a city, you did press, you did PR, you loaded in, you sound checked, you grabbed dinner, you did your show. Most times you got back in the van and drove again. You slept the next morning when you got to where you were going. I hate traffic. I despise traffic. So I would always drive overnights, which meant getting off stage and driving 6 hours.
And you're driving. You're not getting on the back of a bus.
Oh, no,
you're
no.
driving.
I had Blue. Blue was a 1996 Dodge high-top conversion van that I did some mods to. And when I got rid of Blue, she had 360,000 miles on her. And I had spent the better part of 10 years sleeping in the back of it.
So what gave you that drive? So I know a lot of young musicians, they love the shows, right? They typically don't like practicing. They typically, just kind of want to wing it on stage, right? And then
big mistake.
Yeah. and then they don't really have the drive to put in the work that it takes to actually get the shows to turn it into a true career. So when did you start, kind of understanding that and starting to get more into the business part of it?
When I signed with my agent, the day sort of life changed for me was March 10th, 2005 at 1:05 in the afternoon. That's when I walked out the front door of my last job. And I had been courting an agent, Deggy Booking, who currently right now, they are the biggest college agency in the world, and they have been for a long time. And they middle for all the majors. It's an amazing agency. And I had been courting them because I had met the owner. And he always said to me, if I can't send you to Cleveland on a Tuesday, I can't sign you. And I had a job, which means I couldn't go to Cleveland on a Tuesday. Walked out the front door of my last job, called my dad. My dad had one question: can you pay your bills? I'm like, absolutely. He goes, then congratulations. Next call was Ari Nisman. And I said, Ari. He's like, yeah. I said, you can send me to Cleveland next Tuesday. He's like, be in my office tomorrow. And that man gave me the advice and the guidance. And the thing I loved about him from day one was he had no problem calling you out on the carpet.
Right.
Like, dude, you're being stupid right now. Don't do that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
He guided me through a lot of my mistakes. He let me, he was one of those guys who let you make the mistake and then go, what'd you do wrong? Learn from it.
Right.
Now we're going to go do this and we're going to do it right.
Right.
And through guidance like that, and then Ariel Hyatt, who is a dear friend and a publicist from New York City, taught me the ins and outs of PR. Meanwhile, my manager, Dave Tedder, was also guiding me through all of this. And Dave he's one of those unsung heroes in the business because he's run his own company for 25 years, and he's one of those guys you wouldn't know his name if somebody didn't bring it up to you. But you don't spend 25 years in the music business successfully if you're not doing something right.
Right. So
I've had 3 amazing mentors in this business.
And did you have multiples at one time? Did you?
Dave since 2002, Ari 2005, Ariel 2005-06.
And so did you follow everything that they said? Were you one of those guys that kind of push the ropes? Were they mostly right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they let me be wrong so I could learn the right way to do it. Christopher Titus always said, the difference between a mother and a father is a mother will give you knowledge. A father's going to let you learn knowledge. They absolutely let me learn my knowledge. Go ahead, go stick the penny in a light socket, see what happens. Okay, you're not going to do that again, are you?
Yeah.
So I think those lessons stick with you a lot harder than if somebody hands you the knowledge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've had a lot of mentors over my life, and I've been very, very lucky to learn from some really, really incredible leaders and incredible mentors. And sometimes I got to learn by watching, and sometimes I got to learn from them, chewing me out and grilling me and, all that kind of stuff. But I think it really does lend to pretty much everybody in business. And I'll say even the mentors of the business world, they all have mentors. It's like mentors have mentors and they have mentors. And it's almost like if you don't have some kind of mentor, it's almost like no matter what, you're missing out on something. Because just like everybody's really good at sideline quarterbacking or Monday morning quarterbacking, the same is true for everything. Most of the time when you get into your business and you're really, really working it hard, you miss the forest for the trees. I mean, you can't see what's happening to you or what could be happening to you or what opportunity you're missing.
And the thing too is when you're driving, like when you're in a van, you don't always have the time to do a lot of things because you got to drive for 6 hours. And that's a big chunk of the day where you can't be as productive as you want to be.
Right.
And that's where having a team around you and people you trust and can rely on is so important.
So for young up and coming musicians, even if they're doing it part time, they have a day job, or maybe they're trying to take the plunge to go full time. Would you say that one of the first steps is trying to find a mentor, whether it be paid or not paid?
Absolutely.
Trying to find a mentor.
Yep. Learn from somebody who's been there. Learn from somebody who's done it. Don't look for handouts, but look for somebody who you can learn from.
Yep. I had that same saying. I think I said it on the last podcast was, I believe in hand ups, not handouts, right? So look for those people that can literally reach down and pull you out of obscurity to something much, much bigger and introduce you to so many more people. That's another thing. People underestimate mentors, but mentors are mentors because they've been around the business. They know everybody.
Yeah.
So okay, so what else would you tell newer musicians? What is what's it like? What should people expect if they're going on the road? That first road trip has got to be scary.
Learn how not to sleep.
Who does that?
No,
sleep is a crutch.
It's funny. Jackson Weatherby just went out on the road, and everybody agree. And Jackson and I had a few talks before we left, and I was like, dude, make a checklist. Put everything you think you're gonna need on it, and then all the things you don't think you're gonna need, and then make sure you have all of it. Because all the things you think you're gonna need, you're gonna need. All the things you don't think you're gonna need, you're probably gonna need. And physically make a list so that you can stay focused, because when you're on the road, it's easy to get scatterbrained.
You're right.
Make a list, have a notebook, have a tour diary, have a tour plan, put together a book that says where you need to be, when you need to be there, what time to go to sleep, what time to wake up. It is absolutely imperative. And the thing I've said my whole life, every time I've ever been asked that question, here's what I would tell young musicians. Become the best musician you can ever be. Write the best songs you can ever write, and then put those over there. And learn how to run your business. Because if you can't run a business, your songs and your music are meaningless, because nobody will ever hear it.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I really want to kind of talk with you about, the difference between the artistic brain that makes something that people want to listen to and makes the stories so compelling is the same brain that can defeat the business aspect of getting that out to the people that will actually buy it and create your income, that will be able to enjoy it and listen to this wonderful piece of art, right? And it's the same thing that'll keep you from really reaching the level and the heights that you are capable of.
Yeah.
Because those two different brains are very different. They're so vastly different.
And it's worse these days. So go back to the 70s or the 80s, before the computers, before the social media, before you could be famous in your own bedroom, where the only way to get it done was to go on the road. There were no bands that were internet famous.
Right.
There was getting on the road, going to every radio station you could talk to, going to every press outlet you could talk to, and making it happen organically. Now, the mindset is, I can become famous on Facebook, or I can become famous on YouTube, and I don't have to do that.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem in this business, where you do have to go do that. There's very few bands who are YouTube famous who can sell tickets.
Yes, absolutely.
There's two very different worlds, and you sell tickets because you organically built your fan base.
Unfortunately, though, it's a misconception, because those people, everybody knows who Taylor Swift is. Everybody knows who Justin Bieber is.
But their marketing was brilliant.
Exactly. But that's such a small group of people that make it that way.
Yep.
But because everybody knows them, it's like, well, it can be done. Of course it can be done. I mean, if you had a band that, would walk around on, tight ropes and do circus fairs, you would get famous too, right?
Yep.
Like, if you do something crazy, yeah, but how many musicians are on YouTube now? It's more than that are on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and that's the thing. People don't. So, I don't know if the number is still true to this number, but through the 2000s, 5% of musicians, 5% of anybody who ever picked up an instrument managed to make a living. 5%.
Like, that's not a good living. That's a living.
That's a living.
That's a living. Yeah. We're not talking about multi-bajillionaires. We're talking about just make a living.
Less than 2% could sell more than 1,000 CDs. Think about that. Roughly 400,000 to 500,000 CDs will come out in a year. Less than 2% of those will sell more than 1,000.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's pretty sad when you think about it. Do you want to be in the 98 or do you want to be in the 1? And the 1 doesn't mean you sold 1 million. It just means maybe you sold 5,000.
Right. Right.
But even 5,000 to a band or to an artist, if you're running the show yourself, that's 50 grand. You know, and people don't, well, I've got to sell 1 million. If you can sell 1,000 CDs, you just made $10,000 if you're an artist. Today, that's even harder with the advent of singles because nobody wants to buy a lot of CDs anymore. CDs have kind of gone away. You can still sell them if you're touring, which is the only time you really need CDs anymore is if you're in people's faces every day. Right. But if you're releasing a record from your living room and you're not doing 200 shows a year, don't even make a CD because you're wasting money. Release them on Apple. With CD Baby these days, they'll aggregate it out to the whole world for you. Right. And that's where a lot of bands you see wasting money, wasting resources. I need to make CDs. Are you on tour? No. You can put them in stores? No. Then don't make CDs. Right. But I have to you don't. Right. Learn your business. Right. Learn the business. Is this good for your business? If it's not, don't do it. So
what would you say, you know, I know you've made investments into, you know, things like that, CDs, T-shirts, you know, all that kind of stuff. So what do you try to make? Like if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to spend $5,000 making CDs, what you said about $10 a CD. So let's turn that into $50,000, right? But what do you usually try to set your goal for ROI on those kinds of things? If you're going to, you know, put X amount of dollars in, how much do you want to get back out of those same things? Because I see a lot of people making mistakes where they buy $40 sweatshirts and then they turn around and they sell them for $25 at shows.
That's stupid.
Yeah, right. So where do you
I was always a recoup guy because I was on the road making a living. My income was coming from shows. So for me, the baseline of my merch was I want to recoup my investment. If I can recoup my investment and make 10% on it, then that's a successful merch piece. Thankfully, I always did more. But in my head, as a business person, I want to recoup my investment on it, make a 10% bump. I'm making my living over here on the road. Yep. This is simply extra. And then if I recoup it, I can go make another one. Right. And then if I recoup it, I can go make another one. Right. Thankfully, out of 14 releases, I never lost money.
Good for you.
Which I'm proud of saying. Did I make $1 million? No. But I never lost money. And that's a difficult thing to do at an indie level.
Yeah. So if you never lost money, what would you say were some of your biggest mistakes? Like, what did you do that you were like, holy crap, you know, that was a bad one? And what were the repercussions? What did you...
As far as merch is concerned?
Well, just music in general. You know, we were talking about people that take a big loss on merch or a big loss on, you know, burning CDs. Do you have any of those stories where you invested
taking a band on the road? As great as it was, I went broke keeping a band on the road because it was my band. It wasn't a band, right? Where everybody was invested equally into the outcome of it. Right. They were hired guns on salary. Yep. So the gas, tolls, food, travel, expenses, hotels, their salaries, everything was on me. Yep. So
you're the last person to get paid.
Anything went wrong. I was the last person to, you know, I was the first person to feel it and the last person to benefit from it. Yeah. And while I loved having a band, my biggest failures came from trying to keep a band on the road.
Yeah. I've been in that same spot.
My biggest failure, I bought an RV. Don't ever do that.
Never?
One, well, they're not made for the road, I found out. An RV isn't made for the road. An RV is made for
camping.
Mom and pop to take on a couple of trips a year. It's not made for the beating you put it through on the road. It's not made for 5 or 6 people on a daily basis driving 7 hours a day due to it. And they break down and they're not cheap to fix. And there goes your tour. There goes your, well, if everything goes right, we're going to have this much money left. 3 breakdowns. The generator broke. The alternator went. And all of a sudden you're in the negative, but those guys don't care because they still got to get paid.
Yeah.
So my biggest regret ever was buying that RV.
So when you were going on the road, and even I guess to this day, are you still using social media to promote individual events, or are you using it to just promote your, brand? And you have a unique, you have a lot of unique things that you do for your shows. But are you promoting individual shows or you guys?
Kind of, it's all encompassing. So these days, I'm kind of home a lot now. I came off the road a couple of years ago because I made a little person.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a Skype dad.
Yeah.
So I came home to be a dad, but I still had to make a living. So I'm still doing a lot of shows. I still do travel here and there. Haven't put a CD out or released anything because my philosophy on them has been changing. So, my next project will probably just strictly be digital. So I use social media these days. Right now, it's been sort of a maintenance mode thing. Keep my name out, keep the brand moving, keep life going. I'm a fitness guy.
Yep.
So I've kind of merged two worlds of, if you look through my social media these days, you're going to see a post about my daughter. You're going to see a post about my workouts. You're going to see a post about a gig. You're going to see a post about this. So it's never like, buy my stuff, which a lot of bands do. They get so buy, me, that they turn off people.
Yeah.
With me, I don't actually, hey, I'm going to be playing here. Hope I'll see you. By the way, check out my daughter. Isn't she awesome?
Right.
Hey, this was my workout today. You should try it. It's never
begging for the sale.
No, it's never. And I think that's something a lot of bands are doing these days. They're using social media as it's a big thing these days. I have always been against it. Kickstarters. I see the value. I look at them as a begging tool.
Yep.
And as a guy who thankfully always made enough back to do another thing and never needed to beg anyone for it. Because when I got signed, the second record, the label and I had a falling out, and I bought my first record back with a 10-year revision, and I walked away, started my own label, and I've been my own label ever since, Leap Dog Music. So I've never had to ask people for money. I did enough to be able to fund my own work. So I get Kickstarters, and I appreciate Kickstarters, and I love when I see people successfully do a Kickstarter. But even that, you have to realize that you're putting not just your name and reputation on the line, you're putting your ego on the line. Because if your Kickstarter fails, the whole world just saw that.
Yeah.
And not that you shouldn't jump off the diving board and hope the pool's full.
Yeah.
But is it smart business to go beg for money?
Yeah, I mean, I see people that do it and do it successfully, and they launch really cool shit off of it. And
but what you don't see is what Kickstarter doesn't talk about is the thousands a day that fail.
Oh no, I get it. It's like I've seen people that are just really, really good at raising money on stuff like that, but the vast majority of people, they don't do well at it, and they just feel really bummed out because one. And I've actually kind of studied a little bit of this. One, if you set the limit too low, it's like people will only give you $1 or $10 at a time. If you set it too high, even if you get $10,000 and you're shooting for $25,000, you get halfway there and then it all evaporates. It's like.
But that comes down to the thing we started talking about before was it's learning how to run your business.
Yeah, absolutely. If
you're good at running your business, you can run a successful Kickstarter.
Agreed. Yeah. Yes, in theory.
Yeah.
Yes. So what's your next big move? I mean, what are you looking at to do next that's big and cool and flashy and next thing in your bucket list?
Well, I have a new band that I started earlier this year. Myself, Monk Twain, Matt.
Yep.
Called Catwalk Empire.
Yep.
And it's a GB band. It's a money band. It's a mortgage band. I make no bones about it.
Yeah.
It's the wedding, corporate party, private event band that has been a good focus of this year. And knowing that we were going to spend this year not doing much.
Yep.
Focusing on next year, knowing that the plan was 12 to 15 months away.
Yep.
So this year has been game planning and ground building for 2018 for that band. I have a duo show that I do with Jeff that we spoke about earlier that has been picking up steam. So we're trying to find cool ways to work that into new markets. I know that I'm going to be going back into the studio to write more songs and debating what the strategy is going to be in my head. Do I want to do a song a month? Do I want to do EPs and just do digital releases and promote it, which I've done EPs since 2008. I haven't done a full record since 2008 because I saw the singles world coming. And I said, instead of promoting 12 songs once a year, I'm going to promote 6 songs twice a year. So I started that cycle of promote 2 months, release 2 months, ride it 2 months, take a little time off, come back and do another EP.
Yeah, and I love how strategic you are with that. Like there's a lot of people that say, next summer I'm going to do this, or I've got a new album coming out, or I've got a new single coming out, and it's like that same single comes out every 3 or 4 months for 3 or 4 years, right? It's always the same thing. They're trying to launch the same thing.
Yeah.
But I love the way that you're very strategic about what it is you want to do, on what time frame, and everything just keeps being layered and focused on that one goal. And that's so how do you plan those things out? I mean, is that something that I know that you said earlier that it's pen to paper. I don't.
It is pen to paper.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that process. How do you work those things out?
It's like we spoke about when we were sitting upstairs. It's the everybody likes this talk, but there's a commitment thing mentally when you physically do something versus when you talk about something. A lot of people say, I'm going to do this, and they never do it.
Right.
People have said to me and busted my chops, man, you put some stuff on Facebook. I don't understand why you put things out there like that. I'm like, well, because once I put it out there, I've got to do it now because everybody has seen me say it.
Right.
I didn't just say it to 5 friends. I now said it to 5,000 people.
Right.
And somebody along that 5,000 is going to go, hey, what happened with that?
Right.
And I can either look like a hero because I got it done or look like a fool because I said I was going to do something when I didn't. But pen to paper is even more committed. When you can, psychological studies have said, when you speak something versus when you type something versus when you pen to paper something, there are different levels of commitment in your own brain of how much you will follow through on them. Pen to paper, is the most committed. When you physically do the act of pen to paper in your brain, you've committed.
Yeah, take a break.
You've just committed to a much deeper level internally to make that happen. So every year in November, I sit down with a pen and paper and write a game plan and write a goal list for my following year. It's fluid, but focused at the same time.
Yep.
In other words, I know I'm going in this direction.
So do you backwards plan? Do you set the goal and then you back up and say, in order for me to hit these things, or in order for me to get to this goal, I have to hit these certain things, and you just basically keep notching those things off to get to that goal? Or do you kind of say, all right, well, I know I'm going to kind of head in this direction, and as long as I hit most of these things, I know I'm going to keep progressing?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
When I do the bullet point list, that's my starting point. That's the first draft is always just a bullet point list of here's what I think I want to do next year. Then I let it sit and fester, and then I'll keep looking at it over the next week or two, and then I'm like, that one's stupid. This one's good. Let's put that up here. And then I kind of compartmentalize them into these are the really good ones that I think I can absolutely do.
This sounds
This
a lot
is the
like,
one that's lofty, but if I can do it, that'll be awesome.
This sounds like when you would be putting together a CD or an album too.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same exact.
Well, because that's a business plan.
Yeah.
Putting a CD together is a business plan.
Yeah.
What songs do I think are going?
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of artists have the internal conflict.
Yep.
What part of my art is going to sell? Well, I don't. It's not a piece of property. Yes, it is. It's a widget.
Yep.
As soon as you write a song
Yep.
and you're done with the creative part, you just became a widget. If you want to make one dime off of it, you better learn how to sell your widget, because there's a lot of widgets out there. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of songs out there. Go to Spotify. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of songs by people nobody's ever heard.
Right.
Why should I listen to yours? Learn how to sell your widget. Part of that is putting a plan together
Yep.
of how I'm going to sell my widget.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've come to the point in the show where we're going to do the fast response round.
Ooh, okay.
So
me get more water
you
for
gotta
this.
you gotta answer these pretty quick.
Okay.
And just first thing that comes to your mind. All right. So you ready?
Okay.
All right. Describe yourself in 3 words or less.
No off switch.
What was the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
Be awesome.
Biggest regret in life?
None.
What is success to you?
Making a living doing what I love.
What makes you smile?
My daughter.
What are you most afraid of?
Not trying.
If you were to lose everything tomorrow, who would you turn to?
My wife.
What would you do differently if you knew you weren't being judged by anybody?
Nothing, because I really don't care what people think anyway.
What or who have you given up on?
People who treated me wrong.
What or who do you depend on the most?
Who? My wife. What? My tenacity.
Good for you. All right, last question, bonus round.
Yes.
How many monsters do you think it would take to power you to $1 million?
Wow. 2.
2? Good for you.
No, I'm
Good for
kidding.
you.
Probably a lot. Probably a lot.
All right, awesome. Well, man, it's been great hanging out with you. Thank you so much for being here, and had a lot of fun. We're gonna do
Thanks
some
for
more
having me.
stuff.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out this episode of our podcast. If you guys like the content that you just saw, would you do us a favor and go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below? It really helps us know that we're making the right kind of content that you guys want to watch and listen to. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you check out the description box below, we have all of our social media links. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. We post a lot of our behind the scenes stuff and advertisements for podcasts that are coming up. So once again, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.